John McMullen Jody McDonald here with Young Birds 365 Football Friday. Schedule release, new coordinators met. And Chris Franklin's with us on a Friday. We almost always have him on a Monday. You got plans for the weekend, Franklin? You going to go out and do anything you're not proud of?
Isn't that every day? It sounds like we're going to try. That's you gotta have fun. That's you gotta live it up.
Absolutely, brother. That's good answer out of you.
Well, thank you. I try to bring the joy that I share with everybody that's around. And
all
that's what
right,
I'm
yeah, we need some joy here. I think people are still hungover from that Sixers game, so we need a little bit of joy. Chris Franklin, yeah, we see the pain. I brought the pain back. You seem to have gotten over it, but I brought the pain back.
It's one of those times where I'm actually glad I don't cover the team anymore. Where you start seeing like it's almost like watching Groundhog Day. It's like, wait, we've been here before. Wait, a game 7. Oh wait, oh yeah, second round. We now have it. So you know what the ending is, but you can't stop it.
Yeah, we've seen this movie. We're tired of the sequel. Unfortunately, I don't think things are going to end up well, but you never know. You got to play the games. Now, go ahead.
We'll I will say if I still say if I saw Scott Frost as referee tonight, if you see Tony Brothers the referee tomorrow, yeah, just don't even watch the game. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Now the paper is out for the NFL. Got to play the games, but we'll open the floor. Just your thoughts. What do you like? What do you dislike about that schedule?
Well, I think it's the reverse of the 2021 where you start out really easy and then there's that stretch after the bye week where they start. I call it the stretch of death, where you started with Kansas City, and then I ended with Seattle. But you really could extend it to the Giants because of the division game, and it could be really close already with that. That was really tough. And then the fact that you start the season out on the road, which get it, but then you come back for a Thursday night game, like that's a rough combination to start with. But I guess every team right now is pretty looking like, why'd you guys give us this? Why'd you guys give us that?
Yeah, being on the road is no walk in the park for the Vikings, as John's pointed out a couple times. Opening the Eagles season 2 years running for the Vikings. Yeah, I'm not going to complain.
They didn't handle it well last year. I don't think they're going to handle it well this year.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins' prime time doesn't work real well for Minnesota. All right, here's the question I have for you. If I tell you one of these is going to happen and the other one isn't going to happen, you tell me which one is more likely. The Eagles will win 14 regular season games again, or the Eagles will go back to the Super Bowl. Which one is more likely?
I say,
by the way, 14 or more. If they go 15-2, that counts down. I'm not going to go, they didn't win 14, they won 50. No, I mean 14 or more.
I'd go the Eagles going back to the Super Bowl, and the reason why I have them going 12-5. I think San Francisco is going to win the 1 seed. So I'm thinking I just look at some of the schedule. I think they 12. I was going back and forth between 11 and 12. I think it's 12, but then they'd have to go out to the coast for the NFC Championship game where, anything can happen. Is tough to go cross country and play. But yeah, I think it's more toward, I think they do go back to the NFC Championship game, but I think it's more towards they go back to the Super Bowl as opposed to 14, 15 games with this schedule. They do that. That's impressive. They go 14
with this schedule. Very tough.
Yeah. You mentioned that Seattle game. I'm glad you brought that up because when I look at this schedule, they play better teams, but that to me is the most difficult individual spot on this schedule. On the road, second consecutive road game after going to Dallas a year back in the Super Bowl season. The Eagles had the Rams and the Seahawks on their schedule. The NFL did them a favor, back-to-back games. They stayed on the West Coast. That's not going to happen here. They'll go to Dallas. They'll come home. They got to go out to Seattle. Seattle's a good team. That is a really difficult place to play. That is the individual spot-wise. That looks like the most difficult game to me. Thoughts on that?
I think for me, I can see that happening. I mean, Seattle hasn't been kind to them as well, too. I mean, they've struggled every time they've gone up there. to win. It's been a rough place, but the one for me is the one against the Bills, because you're coming off that Chiefs game where you know it's going to be emotional. And then you have the look ahead factor that you had the 49ers after that. And it's like, oh, yeah, you had the Buffalo Bills, one
That's
of the
not a
teams that
bad
was going
thought.
too.
Yeah, that's
So
a
I was
good.
like, it's rough.
Yeah, I didn't think about that look ahead. You're right. You got revenge, Kansas City, revenge, San Francisco. Well, that more from the 49ers perspective, but people will be fired up from that game. And then in between is Buffalo, which is just kind of there, but is really a good team.
Yeah. We all know that in this city, the Cowboys are that rival. But right now, when you're looking at a team that's getting close there, I think the 49ers are inching very close, especially with all the stuff that was said this offseason, just that stuff that was said last week, with Deebo Samuel and everything.
Yeah.
I think that game is starting. These teams are going to be good for a while. I think that could start to be the rivalry in the NFC.
All right, I want to look at a key game, an absolute must-have, got to win it, no questions asked. Week 17 against the Arizona Cardinals. Jonathan Gannon coming back to Philadelphia. We know what kind of reception he's going to get from the fan base. But let's say the Cardinals are 2-13 at that time, and either Colt McCoy or David Blau or Clayton Tune is the quarterback.
David Blau. I love David Blau.
Is in there and quarterbacking. I think they got Driscoll too. As a matter of fact, they unlike Tampa just signed the Rams guy, so they finally added their third quarterback to their roster. Arizona's got 5. Tampa's got all of 3. But one of those guys who is not their usual starter, Mr. Murray, is starting at quarterback. How much pressure is going to be on Jonathan Gannon to go full-fledged Tankapalooza and make sure he gets the first pick in the draft? Because I think they'll come to town about 2-13, but there'll be another 2-13 or a 3-12
I
team.
think that kind of takes care of itself if you're starting who? Chandler Tune? Who?
Yeah, if they're going in there, you don't have Kyler Murray and everybody else is gone. They're smoked.
But at least Kyler will be hurt. I don't think they'll actually sit him for one of those guys. But Kyler can get hurt at the drop of a hat, so I would not be surprised.
Nobody knows more about tanking than Philadelphia, obviously.
Yeah. That's what I mean. They'll be. It may save Jonathan Gannon's bacon from getting booed every play of the game.
Here's the deal: players and coaches do not tank. Ask Lovie Smith. Executives tank, and they have to set it up so you can't win, like Sam Hinkie did with the Sixers. So, you remember in the early tanking days of the Sixers, they were trading guys like Matt Geiger because he was a little bit too good, and he wasn't very good. So you get rid of anybody who can play, and it kind of takes care of itself. But the coaches and players are always trying to win. They're always trying to win.
I think Kyler's going to have. I know he's got that big contract, but I think Kyler's going to have a fire under him because he knows that if they're at that point and they need to win as many games possible, so that way they're out of the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. Like, you guys, we're trying to win. I don't think they win that game, but if they do, it's like, oh wow, what happened? Sorry, I just stopped you from trying to get my replacement. I'm out. See it.
Which he'd be very willing to do because he's had an attitude since he got to Arizona, and his favorite coach who moved heaven and earth to get him is no longer there anymore. So good luck with that, Kyler. All right. They got the Giants twice in the last 3 weeks of the season. John, we ran it down earlier. We did the WL thing. John's penciling on a loss for game 17, 18 because he doesn't think the Eagles will have anything to play for. They'll be locked into their playoff position. I said, no. I think they'll be playing for something. Don't know if it's going to be for the number 1 seed or the division or whatever. I think the Eagles are going to need that last game. The Eagles dominated the Giants last year, beat them 3 times, and 2 of them were just complete crush jobs, and the other one was returning from action. Jalen Hurts got well ahead, and they kind of put the wraps on the game. Giants got a couple late points to make it closer than it actually seemed. Are the Giants going to give the Eagles a tougher time than they did last year?
I think during that first game, Christmas Day, I think it'll be a little bit closer matchup. I think overall the Eagles do win that. I mean, Waller, and that's another guy we were talking about, Kyler Murray. If he's healthy around that time, if Waller stays healthy, I think it changes things dramatically in the middle of the field for that team. And Daniel Jones, listen, man, if he gets a second year in that system on Dable, and we know what Dable's been able to do with Josh Allen, not calling Daniel Jones Josh Allen that whatsoever at all. I think there's a big divide between them, but we saw when it comes to decision making and where to go to the ball and progressions, it's big. So I think they can actually get better. So the Eagles win a game. I think Eagles win both games only because the division's I think it's going to come down to the division in that week 18, and we're not going to like it in the media, but I think that last game is going to be flux, knowing that it's going to be they're going to drum it up as the NFC East
you just ruined my day. I didn't even think of that.
We'll get the graphics. NFC East Championship game, but even though one team's really playing for it.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a good point.
John was banking on his 4th out of 17 games, his 4th 1 o'clock game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Chris Franklin says, "Not too fast, my friends."
Yeah,
that will not be Sunday at 1.
That's Chris? A good point. I would say to Jody's point, the Giants have to be more competitive than they were last year. I would think they have to be, but I still don't think they're ready.
More competitive against the league, or more competitive?
No, more competitive against the Eagles. I mean, they got waxed in the first game, and they got waxed worse in the playoff game. And in I don't even count week 18 because of all the issues, but yeah, they were not close to the Eagles last year. They almost have to be a little bit more competitive. Now, I want to steer you to this, Chris. Where did you find the first loss on this schedule?
I believe it was at home against the Miami Dolphins.
The
Dolphins were the one.
I had them losing for the first time ever to the New York Jets in the regular season, but we're in. So that's week 6. Miami's week 7. You guys both had them losing to Miami at home. Those first 5 games, how disappointed would you be if the Eagles lost one of those first 5 games?
I think there'd be some issues. I think that I can see the one I could see, like, and I went back and forth with, was that game against the Patriots, only because there's a lot going on with it's week 1. You got a lot going on with Tom Brady coming back, and you don't know if the Patriots feed off that for the first quarter, they really jump out to, like, say a 10-0 lead or like a 17-7, something like that. And then you're also you get your first true sense of the defense that the Eagles are running. So I think there's a lot going on there that there's a lot of question marks at. But I think it's one of those things that if they weather the first quarter and they just get back to being the team that they're expected to be, I think they win that game. But if they don't come out of that at least 4-1, I think they should go 5-0. But if they don't at least come 4-1, 6-4-1 out of those first 5, I think they'll be looking back on it and kicking themselves.
All right, Chris Franklin, you and the rest of your compatriots got a chance to talk to both Sean Desai and Brian Johnson yesterday for the first time in their new positions as Eagle coordinators. Who impressed you more?
That's tough. I say Desai only because we never got to see what Desai was. Only because we never got the chance to see Desai until yesterday. I knew Brian. I like Brian, especially a lot when it comes to looking back to his days in Florida, looking back at the way that offense was operating and some of the little wrinkles he did. But the fact that all the thing I had on Desai was trying to look back at his old press conferences back from Chicago. So it's also that thing. And then I like what he was saying in terms of when it comes to what the vision he has for the defense, what he learned from his time in Chicago and stuff like that. I think it's more. I think it's him more the fact that we didn't haven't seen him more. But I think they're both. You can see why they hired him in terms of when it comes to like trying to rile up their guys and their minds, and when it comes to defense and offense scheme and stuff. But yeah, I go for yesterday. I probably go Desai on that one.
Yeah, I kind of saw he's got a master's degree in education from Columbia, I believe. And he's got a doctorate from Temple. So he's a really smart guy. You could see him. He was trying to educate us during the press conference. Yeah. Do you guys know what this means? And we're looking at him like we're writers, dude. Give us some credit. But yeah, you could see he's got education in the background. He's trying to bring people in, and yeah, I thought he hit a home run. I really did. Yeah, I thought he learned from his time. I was telling Jody, his time at Temple under Al Golden. Temple's not a big deal in this city, but I think he knows this city, and I think he hit all the boxes, and he knows what people want to hear in this city, and the grit, the toughness, that we're going to play fast. And I'm still waiting for the defensive coordinator saying, "No, we want to take it easy. We want to not be gritty." But I think he checked all the boxes. I really did. I was really impressed with Sean Desai. I could see why Nick Sirianni, and that's a difficult decision because Denard Wilson had been here, has a ton of respect, especially in that secondary room. But I thought he seems like a good teacher, and he should be. He's got a freaking master's degree in teaching, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's important. Well, I'll go back quickly. You think about that squad that they turn around for Temple football. Yeah, Al Golden, who believes the Michigan defensive coordinator, Matt Rule, who we all know is Carolina, and then Desai. That's a pretty good staff to have there on North Bard. But when you look at the learning aspect, the teacher aspect, he needs to do that, especially. Yes, if he wants to find ways to communicate his system the way he wants things done, you need a guy who says on monotonous, like Ben Stein, like a Ben Stein guy. This is where you line up in cover 2 and 3. I was going to lose things. You're like, oh, what are we doing here? So that's going to be an important thing, and finding to engage ways to do that so it sinks in for especially not only the veterans but the rookies. I think that's going to be important for them if he wants to have early success.
All right, correct me if I'm wrong, but Matt Patricia and his pencil never brought up yesterday. How did that come down?
That's a good point. We should have brought up Matt Patricia.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take that. We'll take that L. We'll take that L.
And this is all speculation. I wonder how much it was more of a, hey, Boston connection. Hey, this guy's really good, and could you bring him over? Like if Bill asked Jeff for a favor or something like that, or hey, this guy's pretty good.
Maybe they're trying to win week 1. Maybe they said, hey, the Patriots are going to be week 1.
Well, I thought it was interesting too. I thought when they initially hired him, the fact that they had to face the AFC East, why not at least have a guy who's familiar with everybody?
That's
at least
true. You knew you were getting NFC.
Yeah.
You didn't know you were getting Patriots week 1. That just kind of came to the fore. But you did know you were playing all 4 AFC East teams, so that's not a bad thing to have.
They have more info
if you
than
had
us,
asked the question, would he have gotten the same exact route as his head coach and say it's trending in that direction? Do you believe that's the answer you would have gotten if asked, hey, is Matt Patricia going to be on your staff?
I think the question would be, we're always looking for talented coaches. You need as many people as possible, because you want to surround yourself with the best minds so that you can have success and we grow.
Good spin job out of you, Franklin. Very
good. I started to remember over and over what they say.
No, I would say, though, no, we can't do that because it's official now, even though the Eagles tried to hide it as long as humanly possible. I did happen to catch, one of the Eagles spokespeople coming off the field at rookie camp. And I said, hey, my exact wording was, is Matt Patricia part of this staff or should we just stop asking? And he said, no, what do you mean? Wait, senior defensive assistant. I go, well, you didn't announce it. He's not on the website. But no, he's officially part of the staff. So, Sean couldn't have said it's trending in that direction. It has trended.
Was he spotted at the practices you guys
I did
were
not
allowed
see
to
him.
I
attend
didn't see
for
him.
15
I
minutes?
did not see him.
I didn't see him. Yeah.
So he's an invisible senior defensive assistant is what you're telling me.
He is a senior defensive assistant. I saw a bunch of people say that he's not the linebackers coach. He is a senior defensive assistant. And, what that means is to be determined. But It does bring up an interesting point because Matt has a lot of experience. If things start to go in a negative direction defensively, how quick does that start up? Oh, well, Matt Patricia's here. He's got more experience than Sean Desai, although not a lot of people like Matt Patricia. Do you see a potential path to some controversy
I
because
don't
he's
think
here?
so. I think if anything, everybody's gonna go look at Matt Patricia the last few years. That's why the defense is bad. He's on the staff. He's part of his ideas.
Yeah, good point.
I think it'd be
Good
one of
point.
those things in there. And I just remember from that whole day when they announced the whole was he on the staff or not. They added him and they put him on the website. Then he went
Took
away, and
long,
then
yeah.
he was officially announced. He's announced as an analyst, and then but yet his bio's not on the website. It's I don't know if they're waiting for him to get his trademark pencil so they can put the picture on in when they have it ready for the program for the media guys, stuff like that. But yeah, it's
It's a
I think
strange hiring.
I think it's gonna be one like Jim Bob Cooter, where it's like, hey, you know what? Okay, this is what I've seen from their scheme. This is what I would do. This is how we played this team beforehand. That showed this look. Do have at it, and then if the defense is good, maybe he tries to spring that board that to, hey, look at this. Well, I had this say in the Eagles being good.
Yeah,
Hire me as
yeah,
your DC or head coach.
yeah.
In addition to your offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, you got to hear from your special teams coordinator yesterday. I like the way John described it. He's playing the back room while the other two are playing the front room. But come on, offensive coordinators, defense coordinator, it's special teams. You got to have a good special teams. And what has Howie Roseman done to upgrade the special teams this offseason, Chris Franklin?
I think you're going to try to rely on the rookies. I really think between the rookies that you have, the Dan Arnold thing is interesting, even though it's just more like I think when it comes to like the punt return thing, he was on some coverage teams, but I think more on the punt return team. But I really think they're going to have to rely on these rookies, and then the punter. I mean, Zeitner. When you look at Zeitner and Siposs, I mean, who would have thought one of the biggest camp outs that we're going to be watching all the time is wow. Let's see. Okay, does he place this inside the 20? It's something like watching golf. It's like, oh wow, look at that. He got it close to the goal line
Yeah,
without it
that's
going
Jimmy
over.
Jimmy Kempsey's wheelhouse. Compensatory
Yeah.
picks and punters. I'm just going to look at Jimmy, say what's going on at punter.
I like the backspin and how it gave him the hang. The hang time was good too. We're all be out with their stopwatches, thinking checking hang time, and just going, okay, yeah, that's good enough. Like,
Yeah. Ty Zettner. Here's where I go, and I've said this to a couple guests. I'll throw it out to you. The numerology aspect of it. They took number 8 away from Siposs, gave it to Mariota. But here's the problem. They made him share number 10, Chris. He's sharing. He's a veteran player sharing a number with a rookie quarterback. That's not a good sign, is it?
it's pretty telling on that one too. The fact, like, but also those special teams guys, they're like, yeah, they're there. So it is kind of telling when it comes to that. You think there'd be some more numbers, like, but I can see that being, maybe the fact that I can see Siposs going like, I don't care, just give me a number, and then Mariota maybe saying, here's
Yeah,
$5,000.
maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he doesn't
I'll
care.
Venmo you some money. Here you go. Just don't bring any
That's true
attention to
too.
it.
Yeah, if you get that nice Venmo, maybe that's it. Yeah,
All
all
Or the
right.
Rolex. Either
Chris
one.
giving us alternative theories. I like it. I like it.
Just as long as not alternative facts, we're good.
Gave me a little surprise there, Chris. You think that Dan Arnold, the tight end they signed from Jacksonville, is going to make it because of special team prowess?
Well, I think the way you look at what he does, like I think because they're
He's a receiver too.
full. Yeah, they're full at tight end. Stoll's their blocker, the blocking guy. But when you look at the areas he uses, he's the same. He does the same thing. And they've been high on Calcaterra. The thing, he's a good receiving tight end, but the problem was his blocking. Well, Arnold's not the best blocker in the world either. So I'm looking at one of those things. I'm like, okay, and Tyree Jackson, I like what he brings size wise and things, but he just hasn't been able to stay on the field. So you got to question that as well too. So I'm looking at it. I'm like, all right, if I think Stoll remains because of his blocking, like because you can't have besides Goddard, you can't have like everybody else just being receiving tight ends. because he's going to be out in Patterson. I'm like, all right, one of these guys may be on the block, and Arnold brings that extra thing, and they've had issues with special teams. So I thought, all right, maybe I think he's more in play than I think people believe.
Well, then who are the 3 tight ends they're going to keep? Because you're not going to tell me they're going to keep 4 tight
No, they're not
ends.
going to keep 4.
No,
I think it's one of the things where you can see it's a possibility where you could see. I think personally, I think it could be Goddard, Stoll, then Arnold. I think Gacatera is right on the thing. If he doesn't improve enough,
could be. He better show up in camp, otherwise he could find himself either on the practice squad or on another squad.
I think it's one of the things where he needs to show he's a better blocker. If he's not the same, and he showed a little improvement toward the end. I'll give him that. Like he showed a little bit more improvement in, but if it's not to where they want him to be at, I think especially knowing that this team has a window now like right now, I can see Arnold be given a shot right there and just hoping he clears. He's available to add back on.
Yeah, I'm with you, Chris. I think it's I think he's got a bigger chance than most people realize, Dan Arnold, to be a backup tight end on this team. At C Franklin News, make sure you follow Chris on Twitter. Read him all over the place, most notably NJ.com, Lehigh Valley Live, Times of Trenton, all over. I'll leave it here. We've been talking about off-ball linebacker. Peter King said there's no weaknesses on this team where he can't find a weakness. I could find one, off-ball linebacker. Jody has floated out the go seize the moment, get Patrick Queen. A lot of fans think you should say, hey, play Nolan Smith at off-ball linebacker. One, the Eagles, please tell me the Eagles are not going to play Nolan Smith at off-ball linebacker. And 2, is Patrick Queen a legitimate potential trade target?
I'll start with the Nolan Smith thing. Only time I could see him playing off-ball linebacker is if you're using an exotic look. If you're trying to change something up, some weird blitz look or some weird thing to really confound somebody. Yeah. Other than that, he's better as an edge guy, more Sam type guy. When you look at just the Patrick Queen stuff, I think that I like him to be here. I think the price might be a little too rich to get there. And then because also if you want to get him in here and you give up a draft pick, I think he's going to want. I think he can warrant at least a 5th or 4th, which you think like, oh, that's not that much. But given that they've given away some of those picks already, and they're using compensatory picks, and they're probably use it next year, you'll need them. And then if you want to keep him around for a while, you got to extend him because you know he's going to want a new contract. And given that this history that this team has with the off-ball linebackers and not spending as much on there, they're probably not going to be able to want to pay what he thinks he's going to be able to get on the open market. So, yeah, it's a nice thought in theory. I think he hasn't played as well as I thought he would play down the Ravens. I mean, in fact, they drafted him.
Didn't you hear his general manager last week call him a Pro Bowl level player?
No. Yeah, hey, he'll be a Pro Bowl level player. Yeah, hey, look at this. Look, even though this is a bad comparison. Look, if you're a grocer going, look at this tomato. Look at the great, beautiful side this one has. You look at the back; it's all bruised up. Oh, okay, yeah. Therefore, you do the same thing that way.
Now you're going to the opposite end of what the GM did. He's not that bruised. He's a pretty darn good linebacker last year, and yes, I think the Eagles would be well advised attempting to get him because even if you don't resign
not a Pro Bowl linebacker,
you're going to get a compensatory pick for him.
Yeah, not a Pro Bowl linebacker.
Yeah, I think the way, especially I think with some of the potential, and this is going way in the future. I think they make a compensatory ones, but I think they can get some higher ones that may knock him down potentially. Like it might not be as much as high potential if some of these guys leave in free agency. So it's thing. I think they'll max out in 2025 when 2025 draft rolls around. They'll max out in that, but I don't think it's going to be too. I think the cost is going to be a little too rich for the Eagles to want to pay.
I think it would be a smart move on Howie Roseman's part. The Eagles are all in for this season, or they should be all in for this season. And they got one outstanding position where they're not as good as they were last year, and that's linebacker. Well, cross your fingers that Christian Ellips develops. No, I'd rather go get a guy who's had 110 tackles and pay the price that I have to pay. Chris Franklin, always a pleasure, brother. Appreciate you coming on board. You know, we'll be checking in a couple of weeks. I asked you this to begin with. You didn't answer. You gave me some funny but flippant answer. What the hell are you doing this weekend?
Well, I know I'm going out this week. I know I'm going out this week. I don't know where yet. And then after that, it might be rest.
Sunday in
last
front of
2
the
days.
TV, Sixers game 7 at least. Can we count on you for that?
Oh man!
If I watched that,
I don't know.
my stomach might be churning after all. I think I might want to go like this too. And nah.
I'll tell you what. It'll be
too?
like
Oof.
I don't know. Chris is sort of a wrestling guy, not as big as me and Mike K, I don't think. But I don't know if you know Orange Cassidy. I'm going to give the Sixers the Orange Cassidy test. I'm going to give them 5 minutes. And if they start like they started in game 6, I'm out. I'm not going to waste my time. If they show up, all right, I'll give them a chance. That's how I'm going to approach it.
For the wrestling aficionado, I think it has the potential to be a squash match early on in Boston, all eyes.
That's my concern.
And make sure Tony Brothers is not the referee. That's it.
Hopefully, the Sixers are Orange Cassidy this week because all the guy does is defend his championship. So we need these
terrible character. I don't want to see a terrible game. Terrible character. I don't want to see a terrible.
I'll take a terrible game as long as it ends up with the correct result. With which Orange Cassidy, it's always a win. That's all I'm asking for. I don't care how friggin' ugly it is, as long as they come out on the long end of the score. Franklin, always a pleasure. Thanks, EF. We'll get you back up in a couple of weeks, buddy.
Thanks,
guys. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
NJ.com is where you're going to find Chris Franklin. All right, you find us coming back to put a bow on the show and the week here on Birds 365.